I can't explain it. That it's there in my brain, and a therapist can say they can get it out of there, but it's embedded. It was in the Phuket Mountains. We had gone in there to relieve the 101st Airborne. They had been working the area for, I think they said, a month or so. In fact, when they were choppering us in, they were choppering them out. And we asked them about the area, and they said, "Piece of cake. There's nothing up here, nothing up here at all." That we were going down a pretty good, well-used trail and hit an outpost. Or we thought it was just an ambush at the time, but it turned out to be an outpost or a listening post. And we saw that and took it out. And we're actually examining the weapons and paperwork and stuff that we found on the bodies. And I think there was 7 or 8 NVA regular in this outpost. And basically we were taking a break and getting ready to move out, and it was actually in between 2 mountains. It was like a small stream bed that we had walked in. We were walking in to go up to this outpost, and then when we started to move out, it just started raining bullets. I mean, it was just like that all the jungle opened up, and we basically were pinned down for, I don't know, I don't have a time period, but we weren't able to shoot back. We were being fired upon, and behind trees and whatever cover we could find, rocks, and we had I think 2 killed in the initial burst. I wasn't walking point then, and couldn't do anything about it. We called artillery in, and we called an airstrike in, or helicopter airstrike in, basically on top of us. Our FO, said, "Hey, we gotta have some firepower here. We gotta be able to move." And so basically the artillery was coming in pretty darn close to us. And we were able to, after a while, start moving up the hill. And we were hitting bunkers that were NVA regulars, and pretty fortified bunkers, because we were taking them out with Laws rockets. They dumped us in some firepower to take out some bunkers, and I think I shot 2 or 3 Laws myself, and I don't know how many we shot that day, but about, I'm going to say, an hour and a half into the battle, I was behind a tree, and a sniper opened up on me, and I think I don't know whether it was the initial round or one of the rounds, went through my upper thigh, and I found myself out from behind my tree, and a guy was behind a tree. He said, "Are you hit?" And I said, initially I said, "No." He said, "Well, get your ass back behind that tree." And I started to move, and I looked down, and just all of a sudden it just all blood. And I didn't have my pistol belt on. It blew my pistol belt off. Some of the rounds took my pistol belt off. My weapon was laying away from me. I missed, when I got hit, I must have thrown it or whatever. But then I finagled my way back behind the tree, and then the next thing I can remember is this guy came up and threw me over his shoulder and took me back to the rear. And well, I do remember the guy that told me to get back behind the trees. He says, "I see him," and he shot him out of the tree. I can see the gook landing on his head, just in a clump.
When you were back at the rear area, how long were you there before you were evac'd out?
A better part of 5 hours, because they were taking the more seriously wounded first. And in fact, when they tourniqueted me and splinted it because I thought my leg was broken where it went through, and they propped me up behind a tree, and me and a couple other wounded guys were pulling rear security around the other wounded where they were kind of triaging them. The corpsmen, 2 corpsmen were working feverishly, over dressing wounds and stuff like that. But we were actually rear security until we got more troops came in from the rest of our platoon, and another company or 2 that came in. But then I was losing quite a bit of blood and not really making it, so I guess I was one of the more critical whenever they strapped me on the litter and pulled me up through the trees and dropped me about 15 feet. The winch, for some reason, slipped and dropped me down, and I didn't hit the ground because there was guys down there that kind of swung me, because I had a branch on each side of me that they had my leg immobile, and it was sticking out about that far below my foot and up in my crotch and on the other side, and if that would have jammed me, if I'd have hit the ground. But anyway, they kept pulling me up, and I'd drop a little bit, pull me up a little more, and I'd drop a little bit, and finally you're swinging through the trees, and the branches are hitting you in the face, and because you're in the litter like this, and thinking you're going to get shot again, and it was just a mess. But finally got up into the Chinook and was medevaced. Went to the Ford area fire base again, and they offloaded us to Huey's and went to a larger base, and then was on a C-130 and medical C-130, and then they went to Quinyon and had my had my morphine for the first shot on the plane, because I didn't want it in the field, because I wanted to be able to fight if I needed to, since I was pulling rear security there.
Sure.
So I said I can stand it. Every once in a while they'd come and loosen the tourniquet and tighten it back up again. So I was very fortunate there. I didn't bleed out.
Did you have a blood transfusion then?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Was that in the plane, or when you got?
No, actually, when I got into the hospital.
Oh wow! So
I don't remember getting blood on the plane. It was a short trip anyway. I mean, once we got up in the air, we weren't up in the air very long that I can remember. Of course, I was high, Didn't feel any pain then.
Sure.
But I was getting some fluids, but I wasn't getting any blood.
Did it get anywhere close to your femoral artery, or?
It missed it by a centimeter. I would have bled out in the field,
Wow.
And then I had a fractured femur, and it missed the central part of the femur. I would have lost my leg. And that's why the surgeon was saying, you don't know how lucky you were. The way the trajectory of the round and all that.
How long was it before you were evac'd out of Vietnam?
I that's another thing that's kind of fuzzy because um, they say they said I was out or sleeping after they did the cleaning out portion of the surgery. I can remember going under, and the next thing I remember, I think it was like 2 days later, and there was a doctor holding up a X-ray, and all I could see was 4 safety pins, 2 on one side and 2 on the other side. And I was looking at that, and I said, "Is that my leg?" They said, "Welcome back." You know, I said, "Safety pins are holding my leg together." I said, "No, no, no, no. We haven't had surgery yet. You just had, your treat. Those are holding the drains in." They had, like rubber drains that would clean out your wound
Oh, wow.
with saline, I guess, or whatever. But
Right.
it would let it drain. But that was holding. There was a drain going down and up, and then down and up on the other side. But those 4 safety pins.
Yeah.
But it looked like it was on the inside of my leg because I could see the bandage because my leg was big. I could see the bandage there too, but then it looked like on the inside they had safety pinned my leg together. So I mean that was a funny part of it. And they said, "Oh no, 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 you haven't had your surgery yet." They put us on a plane and went to Clark Air Base in the Philippines for an overnight, and then to Japan the next day. The only time I ever had basically a band. When they offloaded us at Clark Air Base in the Philippines, they played "Hail to the Chief" as they unloaded us, and that was awesome. Made you feel special. But they had a band there when they were offloading us.
The American military?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yep. I guess they did that to all of the people that landed there into their hospital there in the Philippines. After my final surgery, I spiked a temperature, 105, 106, and thought I had infection. In there somewhere. So, but I was feeling like I had malaria, like I did when I had malaria the first time. And I told them that. So they took a malaria smear and didn't show up. And so I was getting all the alcohol baths, and I mean, here I was my body was already down with I was getting IVs, still getting my IVs when the temperature went up. So they were talking about, surgery again, to go back in and open it up and see what was going on because of the fevers. And I kept telling them, this feels just exactly like what I felt, when I had malaria. And so this third shift nurse, cute little thing, by the way, she came in, sat down on my bed, and she says, you're, because the way my fever was, it would spike like 6 o'clock in the evening and go. I mean, you couldn't even break it with anything until about 10. About 4 hours, I was burning up. But she said, "I've got a friend in the lab," and she says, I'm gonna give him a call." And this was like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was still awake, But she called him. He came over, took blood, and within an hour, he called back, and he's got falciparum malaria. And he ordered quinine. So I started getting quinine intravenous in another arm. Had 2 of them going in this arm and 1 going in this arm. So they started me on quinine, and it showed up, falciparum malaria. So they were more concerned at that time about my malaria than they were with my gunshot wound. I got shot July 7th, 1967.
When did you get back home to Decatur and your family?
I got a weekend pass. They gave me a reprieve, and I got a weekend pass, and that's what you saw in the film there. I was going home for the weekend. A couple of weeks, and I was able to lift 20 pounds. Worked like the devil to do that. Still couldn't straighten out my leg all the way, but I could lift it. They had a certain criteria, before you got your 30-day leave. I think it was 30 days. Might have been 15. But anyway, got to come home for that.
Did you fly into Decatur or
Drove.
drove?
Yeah, in that Mustang. My brother-in-law's Mustang.
Did he come and get you, or?
No, my mom and dad brought it down because they didn't have a real good car. So they borrowed his, and I actually drove it back.
How'd that feel coming back home after being over?
Oh, it was fantastic. One little incident, or what happened, I know my wife's heard this 100,000 times, but my mother fixed some of my favorite food, and I like snickerdoodles, cookies. But she fixed a batch of those snickerdoodles, and she hands me a snickerdoodle, and she says, "Here's your favorite cookie." And I says, "That's not my favorite cookie." She says, she was devastated, really. She says, "Yes, it is. You always wanted, whenever you wrote the letters, you'd say, 'Send me some snickerdoodles.'" I crunched up that snickerdoodle and put it in a plate, and I said, "There's my snickerdoodles." That's the way I got them. She just laughed. Didn't get a whole cookie. And that's the way we got stuff, It was either smashed or broken up. I wouldn't want to do it again, but I wouldn't want to give up the experiences and that I had. I think it made me the person I am.